Good morning, everyone. Now, for me, it's good morning, and it's 2nd of January 2026, brand new year. So, in this quick video, I really wanted to clarify some of the concerns going on around about the Azure roles. I'll put it simply like this, based on my experience, which matters because everyone can have their own opinion. Now, Azure roles, the way I look at it, there are like three roles basically. One is Azure engineer, and then the Azure consultant, and then the Azure architect. Now, Azure engineer, I always see like the frontline person, team who's going to do the day-to-day troubleshooting, monitoring, and then they do the deployment task like deploying resource group, virtual machines, the VNets, and then troubleshooting the application's performance issues, so on and so forth. Of course, they will be working with others, but important thing is they focus on those tasks. And when it comes to deployment, they will also go through learning about the scripting and then about IAC, infrastructure as a code, by using Terraform, Bicep, and then even ARM templates. So they are very much deeply technical side. And then over the time period, they will be growing their knowledge on how to do things much more efficient way. And of course, this is why we always recommend try to be join with the forums and then be active on learning on that scale for the Azure engineers, because they are playing a major role. And whereas Azure consultant, the way I see is Azure consultant playing a role between the business people and then the technical team, both parties. So their main requirement is understanding the business requirement and then converting that one into a technical solution by mapping the Azure components properly. Now, to do that one, they also need to be technically savvy, so their previous Azure engineer role experience really come into the picture. But as I mentioned, they are the bridge between the technical decision makers and business decision makers when it comes to properly positioning a solution. Now, in my days, I really like to do like we call the whiteboard consultation engagement. That means I go to the customer side, listen to them, and then open up the whiteboard, start drawing the diagram and explaining how their business requirement keep on clearly mapping onto the Azure solutions. So in that situation, you will be addressing in a broader way, like disaster recovery, how the application can scale, security aspect, so on and so forth. And after that, you might have to draft solutions and then sync up with the technical team on how the delivery should be happening. Now, that's predominantly the role of an Azure consultant. Now, an Azure architect, they'll be going one step ahead. They will be deeply looking into the organization's governance frameworks and how the proposed solutions can be mapped properly onto this governance framework, and then cybersecurity aspect, and then long term whether this solution is going to be sustainable for the given business requirement. So they will be looking much more broader way. But sometimes, as you can see, a consultant can become an architect in a given scenario based on the situation. Now, of course, the confusion starts because when I see some of the job roles mentioned, they're expecting all those in the job description, all these things are mentioned. It's like I was thinking, man, they're expecting a Superman. But in ideal way, I would rather prefer to see in a solution companies who will have like couple of Azure engineers, combined with the Azure consultant, who can play the both role of Azure architect and Azure consultant based on his experience, of course. For a small team, that's more than sufficient. But when you become on a large enterprise organization, then of course, because of the in-depth level, you have to go on those enterprise organizations, understanding their business requirement, legal implication. Then Azure architect and Azure consultant can become two roles. But being said that one, I don't see the advantage of combining Azure engineer and Azure consultant as a one role. That is, from my point of view, personal point of view, it's an utterly big mistake, and that is going to hinder for that particular person very badly, because to become Azure engineer, you also have to be keep up to date as well, and then learn about the troubleshooting and everything. And Azure consultant always had to think about on the business angle and mapping those solutions. So they also had to do a lot of reading. So when you try to combine them into one role, and then they have to go and visit multiple customers per week, and then drafting solutions, mapping them, and then same time doing the deployment, you can see the problem. So that's why I always believe these three roles has to be kept separately. Only exception that I give is Azure consultant and Azure architect, given in a the business scenario or the customer segment that particular company helping, they might be able to play around. Thank you so much.